Hi, everyone. I'm Deana Driver. I'm a publisher in Regina, Saskatchewan with DriverWorks Ink Publishing.
And I'm Mary Harelkin Bishop. I am the author of many children's books, and my newest book we're going to talk about right now.
That's right, Tunnels of Time. And this is the updated, republished version. Mary wrote this book 20 years ago, and so this is the book's 20th anniversary. We've added some wonderful illustrations by Wendy Nordell and some new resources. And so we want to take you on a peek of this wonderful new book by Mary.
So I'm standing in the tunnels in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. We did a virtual book launch here, and we would like to show you some of the photos. So I want to invite you to come with me on a tour, a little bit of a tour of the tunnels, but also a little bit of a tour of the book right now. This is a picture of Moose Jaw taken in the 1920s, and the photographer was standing at the train station in Moose Jaw, which is at the very end of Main Street, and looking north. And this picture is significant because when Andrea, the main character of Tunnels of Time, falls back in time, she ends up in the 1920s.
And it looked very much like this then.
It did.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, what you see here is a map of the tunnels of Moose Jaw, and it really were tunnels in Moose Jaw, many of which did follow this map, the idea of this map with tunnels going up Main Street, north and south, and tunnels going east and west as well. And the important thing and the really exciting thing about this picture is that Wendy Nordell again did a fabulous job, and many of the buildings that are important in the story are pictured here on this map.
They existed in those days and still exist in some form today. And tunnels went underneath them, which is really cool. And what I loved about it was that when Mary introduced me to this book and we worked on the republishing of it, we talked about how does that tunnel go underneath the train station and where would Andrea have come out? And we did a little bit of extra research, not a little bit, a lot of extra research. And it was really a fascinating project.
Right, and stay tuned because we intend to do a video about our tour of the train station.
Yes.
So that's a video coming up.
Yes.
So I think most people would recognize this man, Al Capone, was a very bad, a notorious gangster from Chicago in the United States. And up until about 4 years ago, there was no actual proof that he was in Moose Jaw, but now we have proof because his great niece wrote a book and talked about him being in Moose Jaw, and she actually came up to Moose Jaw in about 2016 and did a documentary about him being in Moose Jaw and actually toured the tunnels as well, which is really exciting. Al Capone plays a really big part in Tunnels of Time, and one of the main reasons he came to Moose Jaw was to get illegal alcohol. Back in the 1920s, alcohol was illegal in both the United States and in Canada for a while. And there was things called rum running going on. People made their own moonshine, if you want to call it that, or alcohol. And there are many, many stories and evidence that Capone and other people were smuggling alcohol back and forth over the border between Canada and the United States.
Mm-hmm.
The lantern that you can see in this picture is a 1920s style lantern, and lanterns play a really, really important part in Tunnels of Time.
The actual tunnels were not nearly this bright.
That's right. So this is called a belly tunnel, and a belly tunnel was really important because there were several in the tunnels, and like its name, belly tunnel, implies you had to get into the tunnels, into that belly tunnel on your hands and knees and crawl through there. And so Capone and other gangsters hired a lot of children to be what they called tunnel runners, sometimes called tunnel rats. And Andrea from the story becomes a tunnel rat. And I thought I would read you one part where she actually has to go through the tunnel. Go through a belly tunnel. So right now she's running through the main tunnel that runs up north and south on Main Street that you saw on the map. Andrea reached the main tunnel that led under Main Street and turned right. She was breathing heavily now and almost didn't see the center pole marking the entrance to the cafe. At the last minute, she swerved around it. Andrea's chest hurt. She slowed for a moment, gulping the putrid tunnel air. I've got to go on, she kept telling herself. Now that I've decided to do this, I've got to get there in time. Taking 2 more gasps of stale air, Andrea forced herself to run on. She flew down the center of the tunnel as fast as her weary, trembling legs would carry her, reaching the tunnel under Main Street in record time. Rest, Andrea thought, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt lightheaded and leaned against the entrance. There she paused for a moment until her breathing slowed and her legs felt less rubbery. I'm going to make it, she repeated again and again. I have to make it in time. Andrea pushed away from the wall, almost jumping into the tunnel. She'd forgotten that it was lower than the other tunnels. Her hat brushed against the dirt roof. It flew off behind her. Andrea didn't even stop to pick it up. She barely noticed that it was gone. It was a relatively short distance under Main Street, and then Andrea turned left into the last tunnel. 8 lanterns, she remembered. 8 lanterns until the hidden entrance to the Hazelton. Andrea ran on, adrenaline giving her energy. She counted the lanterns out loud as she ran by each one. Between 6 and 7, Andrea suddenly screeched to a halt, staring at the small, freshly dug hole. What had Big Al said about it? If you ever need to get to me quickly, this is where you come. You hear? His words swooped into her mind. Andrea didn't even stop to think about what she was doing. She dropped to her hands and knees and crawled as fast as possible through the dirt and gravel to get there in time. This minuscule tunnel was even worse than the other. It was smaller and felt more claustrophobic. It smelled dank and moist, as if water was seeping in from somewhere. The thought of another cave-in filled her mind, threatening to send her into a state of panic. Come on, Andrea willed herself, pushing her body to the limit of its endurance. She had to make it. Not only did Big Al's safety depend on it, but so did hers. She willed her mind totally blank, concentrating only on getting to the Hazelton in time. Andrea pushed on in complete darkness for what seemed like ages. Then her mission was over. There was her goal. Directly ahead, she spied light seeping in through the void. It was another vent in the wall, just like the one at Scotty's. Not waiting to knock politely on the wall or to call out courteously, Andrea crawled directly to the vent and pushed with all her might. And so the picture you see right there of me bending down, looking at that vent, that's the kind of vent that I'm writing about. And can you imagine Andrea coming from behind there to push it open? You can see how big it is, actually, how tall, because Tunnels of Time, the book is leaning right there, propped against it.
Pretty incredible.
So these are pictures of some of the pages in the books. And again, the artist, Wendy Nordell, did such a fabulous job. The story actually takes place in a little over 24 hours. And so the clock, and that's a clock on one of the clock towers in Moose Jaw, play a really important point or part of the story, and also make the reader realize that the time of the chapters is very important. In this picture, you can see that Andrea's brother Tony is trying to move an armoire away from the wall. And armoires were very important in Moose Jaw at the time too. This is an armoire that was actually in one of the tunnels that we were going through. And the armoires were used to hide tunnels from behind. So they would sometimes be hinged to the wall, or a person would just wiggle them, move them, shove them out of the way to get into the tunnel. And so this armoire is very important.
We heard many stories about that. And even as we were in Moose Jaw for this event, we heard other people tell us about tunnels that were hidden behind certain places in Moose Jaw, below the streets of Moose Jaw. I wanted to tell you a bit about my role in this project. As the editor and the publisher, I took Mary's words and Wendy's artwork and put them together on pages like this. So this is what the finished book looks like.
And they turned out looking very beautiful.
One of the things that I enjoyed, and Mary and I both enjoyed, was Wendy's artwork. Mary went through the book and decided on some of the potential images, and Wendy drew them based on the character that Mary saw in her own mind when she first wrote this 20 years ago, and updated version for today's date. So this is Andrea as Mary created her.
So it was a lot of back and forth with Wendy, the artist, because it must be a very hard thing for an artist to take my ideas and since I'm not the artist, to actually try to draw what I'm thinking about.
That was,
sorry.
No, I was going to say it's an interesting process for sure.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I'm very excited about with the new book is the extra resources that we added. So here are two examples, a historical note that we put in, a little bit about Capone and a little bit about the tunnels in Moose Jaw, and a little bit about the Chinese Canadians that also had some things to do with the tunnels that you can learn about in another book pretty soon. And then a Q&A from the author, like an interview with me. Some of the questions that I'm asked a lot, we just put some answers down for you, as well as some discussion questions that teachers might want to use. So we hope you enjoyed our little tour of the tunnels, and we hope that you get the opportunity to go to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan and have a visit of the tunnels and see how imaginative and adventuresome they are, as well as we really hope that you will pick up Tunnels of Time and have a really great read.
We want to say thank you.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Thank you to the people, Kelly, Tunnels of Moose Jaw, who was so accommodating for us and basically gave us almost free reign of the tunnels, letting us snap pictures everywhere we wanted and just being really, really helpful and friendly.
We felt very privileged to have this opportunity and to be able to share that with you. And then these are the amazing books that Mary has written that I've been honored to publish. Seeds of Hope and Tunnels of Time, which we're talking about now, Mastosony, Buffalo Rubbing Stone. Then on the bottom, the Skybird and the Eagle Feather, Venus Wheels, and Moving Forward. You can get all those from our website, driverworks.ca. And some of the books are available as ebooks as well.
And you can see there which ones: Seeds of Hope, Tunnels of Time, yay, and Skybird, yay.
Yeah.
So we hope you enjoyed our little tour of the tunnels and our little tour of the book, Tunnels of Time, and come back and see us soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.